Hello, welcome to the FanDuel Punch Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Spencer Limbach at Spencer_JL. We're talking about this big slate, 14 games tonight, but at the same time, not a lot to love. We were talking for a minute before the show about, there's no pitchers you feel great about. There's not a lot of pitchers you feel great about targeting either. So we'll go ahead and dive into things here. And on FanDuel, most expensive pitcher, Jordan Zimmermann. I personally am not a big fan of Jordan Zimmermann, especially with his decreased velocity, low strikeout rate, low ground ball rate. No way I'm playing him tonight against the Yankees. For me, there's only a couple options, and as far as cash games go at least. It's going to be either Tyson Ross with the strikeout upside and hope that he has his command going today in Petco, or Andrew Hutchison against the shell of the former Angels. They were now the worst team in the league against right-handed pitching. He's $7,500. He's pitched well over his last two games. Finally starting to show a little bit of that strikeout upside. 15 Ks over his last 11 innings. And 13 and 14 points in those two, despite not getting a win in the last one. I think that those are the only two guys I feel fairly confident about in cash games.
Yeah, I think Hutchinson is a nice sneaky pick that's, not really that risky either. And a low opportunity cost, as we were saying, at the starting pitcher position. I don't really mind that as a cash game play. But Tyson Ross is the guy for me. He's going to be the guy for most people tonight. Has a fairly high win probability, minus 145. Vegas has assigned him the money line. And he's in Petco against a Cubs team that will either hit you hard or they'll strike out. And, when he's backed up by a pitcher-friendly environment like that, you have to figure his strikeout rate's going to be reasonably high tonight, as it has been for majority of the season. His problem has just been run support, not really getting wins, and the Padres themselves, a right-handed heavy team, are going to go up against a mediocre lefty tonight. So there's a good chance he could get the run support he needs, and I'm probably going to pencil him in as majority of my cash games, if not all.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And like you said, unlike James Shields last night, he actually does have a good chance of getting some run support against Sayushi Wada. So we
technical difficulty.
Hey, at least it didn't fall all the way. You're good. Nothing broke.
I saved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice catch. But yeah, like I said, I'm of the same thinking. Tyson Ross has got to be your number one option. I'm just thinking if there is a swerve for me, it's got to be Hutchison. Elsewhere, if you're looking for GPP options, Jake Odorizzi's interesting. Atlanta was hitting the ball really well. Not great recently. We know he's got big-time upside when he gets it going with those strikeouts, so I don't mind him. Another guy who's been pitching well, who I don't feel great about playing, but I will throw in a couple tournaments, is Wei-Yin Chen. He'll be lefty-lefty against some of these bigger bats, and, I guess they're not such big bats anymore, especially Robinson Cano. Really just no power with him anymore. And obviously Nelson Cruz, the exact opposite, but Chen against the Yankees and Angels over his last two games. 7 innings, 7 Ks in each one. He's pitched well. He's pitched 8 innings in another start. He's the guy that eats up innings, and he's pretty efficient. So I don't mind him as a tournament play.
Yeah, I think that's a decent tournament spot for him. Someone else I'm looking at, I don't think he has as much upside, but I think he might be pretty safe tonight, is David Phelps. He's not a guy with really high strikeout rate. He had 8 against Atlanta last game, but that looks as more of an outlier than anything. But Vegas really likes him tonight. He has let's see, where's he at? A minus 150 in a 7.5 spread, or 7.5 over under. So at home, pitcher friendly park against Arizona. I really don't mind that call if you're dipping down for a moderate cash game option.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's got very low risk to implode there. He seems like a guy that gives you a nice safe floor, and you're definitely looking for that. Outside of that, is there anybody you're targeting in tournaments? I know you've got Carlos Rodon, who struggled in his last start against Oakland, but I think he's an interesting option still at 6,800. He should have really low ownership because of that game. 6 walks, had 4 in his first start, so you're a little bit concerned about that, but this is an Indians team that, outside of Michael Brantley and Ryan Rayburn, really don't hit lefties hardly at all.
Yeah, they don't have anyone with the platoon advantage that really scares anyone. The only problem with that is they don't strike out either.
Yep.
So I think that's going to limit some of his upside. He's maybe a tournament option, but I'm probably steering away, maybe bumping up to Chen or Phelps. One of those guys in that range for a similar price tag.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. As we move on here to catcher, You obviously love Buster Posey against a lefty, despite being in a pitcher's park. He gets Red Anderson tonight, an okay lefty, but I certainly like his upside. And
Yeah.
Posey, a guy that was struggling at the beginning of the season, really starting to get it going recently. So I like him. If it's not going to be him, I like Derek Norris against a lefty once again. He mashes lefty. Should be hitting second against Tayoshi Wada tonight.
Yeah, my top overall option, and although I like those two guys, is Russell Martin. I really like the Jays tonight. Jared Weaver. I mean, kind of as the theme, these older guys, not really themselves lately. I mean, he's had a couple good bounce back outings, but overall velocity's down, and I don't really mind targeting Jays bats against him. So Russell Martin swinging a hot bat, don't mind him. The only problem is he's pretty expensive. But you're not really spending up that high on pitcher today, so I think you can work him in and have a really comfortable lineup around him.
Yeah.
So a couple other guys, Derek Norris, he was also on my list. Don't mind him. For a tournament play, Nick Hundley, 2.6K. He and Rosario now in the lineup together. Rosario playing first base. He has home run upside, hit a home run, 2-run shot last night. So he's just one of those guys, if you're looking at a tournament play, high upside play, below 3K, he's probably one of the guys.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Will Rosario now moved to first base eligibility at FanDuel, which stinks for us because obviously there's always first base options. But I'm with you on Hundley. He had a home run last night. His price actually went down $100, so should be batting right around 6 in that order. And two bad pitchers in Coors Field, in case you didn't notice. Usually we get at least one bad pitcher. Tonight, two bad pitchers. So you need to get yourself some exposure to that, and I think Hundley's a nice, cheap way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to first base here. David Ortiz was in a great spot last night and delivered $2,900. Now he gets a pretty inexperienced righty, and Patrick Klein. Is it Patrick Klein? I think it's Patrick Klein.
Phil.
Oh, Phil Klein. Sorry, Phil Klein. That tells you
P.
how.
Klein.
Yeah, P. Klein tells you how much faith we have in him against David Ortiz in Boston. They once again have among the biggest. It might actually be the biggest team total once again. I know they had the biggest one last night, and so you're going to want to get yourself the exposure. Outside of that, I still love Joey Votto at $3,600, and then now you get Jose Abreu still at $3,600 against Sean Markham, who. He was bad when he was in relief last time, or last little stint he had in the majors. Now he's back for some reason. I expect Jose Abreu to have zero trouble mashing this guy tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I also had those three guys on my list in that order pretty much. So, David Ortiz, 2.9K. Gotta love the price point. I mean, multi-hit games in his past three, 2 home runs in that span. So he's turning it around after struggling earlier in the year. And, I mean, the talent level, obviously, a lot higher than the 2.9K price tag suggests. So he's a great play along with those two others, Abreu and Votto.
Yep, and I'll throw out Ryan Howard as well since he is in Coors Field.
Yep.
Struggled last night, but we know the kind of power this guy has. It won't take long for him to sit one in the seats if he gets a mistake tonight. So,
yeah.
As far as cheaper guys, nobody that I really love. Adam Lind at $2,900. Interesting at Shane Green. He hit a homer last night. One of the 3 back-to-back-to-back they had last night. But I think past that, I'm probably going to be playing mostly David Ortiz. So I don't see much need to dip below those guys.
Yep, agree.
All right, moving on to second base. You're going to love my favorite second baseman. I'm sure that he's on your list as well. Mr. Brian Dozier mashed a home run off of a significantly better lefty last night in Francisco Liriano. Now he gets Jeff Locke. Average at best, if you ask me. Dozier really getting it going. He's got 3 home runs in his last 4. He's got 5 home runs in his last 9. He's got hits in all of his last 10. I mean, the guy's getting on. He's walking. You have to love Brian Dozier tonight at $3,800.
Love it. Minnesota Laser Show. Even though Pittsburgh is a bad park for righties, I mean, I don't think it really matters. I mean, Dozier, if he's not going to hit a home run, he's going to hit a gapper to the walls. He just finds a way to score runs, too. So really like that call if you're paying up at second base. Otherwise, dipping down, you have Chase Utley. As we mentioned, bad pitchers in Coors tonight. He's at 3K. Maybe a little more than I'd like to pay for him, but, I mean, he's been solid past 4 games or so, and I don't really mind that if you need a little bit salary cap relief at the position. Otherwise, you have D. Gordon, 3.7K. I mean, I'd probably rather have Dozier, but I think Gordon's going to have a lower ownership percentage because of that, and because he's been kind of struggling as of late. But I think that's kind of artificial. He's going to bounce back sooner or later, and he has a non-prohibitive matchup against Chase Anderson tonight at home. So don't really hate that pick either. Otherwise, if you're going dirt cheap, maybe Ricky Weeks at minimum salary. Check the lineup. He could be in there against a lefty. Granted, it's a decent lefty, but I mean, minimum salary. If you're looking to punt the position, stack everywhere else, Ricky Weeks. Take a look at him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Only other guy I'll throw out for tournaments there is Jimmy Paredes, hitting the ball really well. $3,200 gets a bad lefty. Well, I guess a below average lefty, I think, and Reyes Elias, who's been wild at times. All right, moving on here to third base. Nolan Arenado, of course, at home. Tons of power at Coors Field. You want to look his way in some spots. Josh Donaldson, tonight he gets a righty, but not a very good one at this point. And Jared Weaver, he hit a homer last night, just missed the second one. He's got big-time upside, 3,700, and his ownership should be down since he's not facing a lefty as well. If you're looking for cheaper guys, Aramis Ramirez is a guy, back-to-back games with home runs, also back-to-back games with 3 other outs, so he's a total of 2 for 8, but both those 2 hits, home runs. Shane Green has not been good recently. If he's starting to get into a groove, obviously you want to target him more against lefties, but, I don't mind him as a tournament play despite that being a pitcher's park.
Yeah, he's on my tournament radar, but I'm probably going to dip down a little further and go with maybe Franco of Philadelphia. He's swinging definitely a hot bat at Colorado. Went 3 for 4 last night, 3 RBIs. Has a nice lineup spot, hitting fourth in that lineup. Really like that, but I'm kind of torn between him and Trevor Plouffe, and I don't really want to be chasing points with Trevor Plouffe, but I mean, against the subpar lefty in Locke, batting cleanup for the Twins, 2.5K. That's a great situation. So I'm probably going to be splitting between those two for the most part at third base.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's a great spot as well. And one other guy I'll throw in there is Mike Moustakas. We know Jason Marquis, not good against lefties or righties particularly. Moustakas should be hitting second tonight. 2,600 is a nice price for a pretty good hitter there too. All right, moving on to shortstop. Troy Tulowitzki was a guy I did not play last night. I thought he was too expensive. I don't know that I'm 100% sold on him tonight, but now he gets Severino Gonzalez, who has given up 15 hits in just 7 innings this season. You're going to see a lot of Troy Tulowitzki in lineups tonight, and with no expensive pitching options that you really feel like paying for or even can pay for, most expensive guy being 9K, I think Tulowitzki makes a lot of sense at shortstop tonight.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go with him in majority of my cash games just because that you can fit him in, and there's not much opportunity cost at shortstop. So if you are dipping down, if you can't quite fit him or you want to go a different route, you want to spend up in the outfield or somewhere else, I think Alcides Escobar is a decent option, batting leadoff for KC. 2.8K, a little more than we're used to, but still not really a prohibitive price tag. And Jason Marquis, he just he lets everyone hit off of him. He's a very generous guy in that regard. So Escobar could have a multi-hit game. He can steal a bag and score multiple runs too. So really don't mind that spot for him. He's probably the dip down option I'm looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. One more guy thrown there for tournaments was batting second last night. Starting to finally show some flashes of upside that everyone expected in the preseason is Ian Desmond. If he's batting in a nice lineup spot again. He's got 8 hits in his last 5 games, home run last night. Obviously, if he's batting second, you got Bryce Harper 2 spots behind you, and it seems like it's almost a certainty that you're coming home if you're on pace when Bryce Harper's on at bat right now. So I don't mind him either. All right, moving on to the last spot. Bryce Harper, once again, $6,200, and makes you think that he's just way too expensive, and he is. But if you're playing in multiple tournament lineups and you do not get any Bryce Harper tonight, I think that you are a crazy person because he does have, let's see, 200,000. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but 3 home runs in his last 4 games. I believe he has 10 in his last 12, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I mean, he's just... If you don't know why Bryce Harper makes for an awesome tournament play tonight, then just, I don't know, get on the internet and just do anything on the internet and you'll see something Bryce Harper. I mean, he hit a pitch last night that was 6 inches above the dirt, like into the seats in the deepest part of the ballpark. The guy's insane. You certainly can't fit him in your cash games. If you can, you're punting too many plate positions that I don't feel comfortable, but massive upside for him in tournaments. I think if I'm going with a big bat in my cash games, it's going to be one of 2. Either Nelson Cruz against Wei Yin Chen or Adam Jones at only $3,500 against a lefty on the other side of that game, Roenis Elias. I mean, he's just too cheap in that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, you have to love Nelson Cruz against the lefty in Baltimore, so park upgrade for him rather than Seattle. His old stomping grounds, that is.
Yep.
Revenge game, if you will. It came into play last night.
Yep.
No, that doesn't really work for baseball, I don't think. Anyway,
He hit
so
that
yeah,
ball like he was mad at it, though.
yeah. In all fairness, I had plenty of exposure last night to Nelson Cruz, and I was happy with how it turned out. But Adam Jones, I don't know. This is where I kind of have to, fight my recency bias, where he's burned me a lot because I've just been clicking him in with that nice price point, thinking he was turning it around, and he hasn't. But I mean, at home against a subpar lefty, 3.5K. I mean, I'm going to have him in the mix, definitely. I just don't know how much I'm going to have him quite at this point. Let's see how he blends in there. Otherwise, I'm looking down, and I really like Carlos Gonzalez. And I don't know how you can't like him at that price point, 3.2K, against probably one of the worst pitchers going tonight in Gonzalez in Coors Field. So, I mean, granted, he's had his struggles earlier in the year, but he's kind of turning it back around. He's at least not just going over every single time. He's actually making contact with the ball, so I really like that play, 3.2K.
Yeah, I think he's going to be locked into my cash games as well. And speaking of another Carlos who's starting to get it going, Carlos Gomez. You look at his last 4 games, he's got 7 hits, a double, a home run, stolen base. He's kind of doing it all at the top of that order. And gets Shane Green tonight. And Shane Green got an MRI a couple days ago. They say he's fine. I'm not convinced that he is. Detroit's bullpen's not exactly the best either, so I think he's in a really good spot. And, I mean, all you need out of Gomez, really, get on base, steal second, and score a run. And you got yourself 4 points pretty quickly with him.
Yep. A few more I'm going to throw out. We have Cole Calhoun, 2.9K. I think that's pretty cheap price point for a reasonable cash game player if you're not believing in Hutchinson tonight. Otherwise, looking down, I kind of like the White Sox bats tonight. You have Adam Eaton. I think he's a solid cash game play, 2.7K. And Melky Cabrera, 2.6K. As we said, against Markham, who is a spot starter at best, and I'm not really sure what he's doing spot starting tonight. So if that tells you anything, I like the White Sox bats, and those are 2 cheap ways to get exposure.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm going to throw out another cheap guy who's been hitting really well since he came up. Todd Cunningham is min salary. Been batting 6th for Atlanta. Tonight he gets Jake Odorizzi, who's a fine pitcher in his own right, but a min salary guy who in 4 games has 9 hits. I'll roll the dice with him in a few spots here tonight as well.
Yeah, that's a good call. I didn't have him on my list before. He's a switch hitter too, so I mean,
yep.
He's not going to get pulled for a platoon pick if it comes down to a bullpen game. So, yeah, I like it.
Absolutely. And if you're trying to still pick on Jared Weaver, which I am, a cheap way to get exposure is Chris Colabello. Hasn't been hitting great over the last couple games, but walked 3 times 2 nights ago. So, I mean, he's shown some patience at the plate, waiting for his pitches. So, at 2.4K, I like that.
Yeah, I have him on my list too, so.
Perfect. That's going to wrap things up for us. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe and check out all of our content for tonight's action at dailyfantasycafe.com. And we'll see you tomorrow.